Hiya, I'm ThatJaymsWisdom and you're watching Software Stuff. This is part 3 of the Illustrator tutorial in which we design a locative media app using Illustrator. So let's get started and go back to where we were. So last time around we made our icons across the bottom and top, and previous episode we just started by putting in these panels across the top and bottom here as well. Okay, so this episode what we want to do is we want to start putting in this background here and also this little login options box as well. So we're going to be showing you how to crop images to put into Illustrator, use transparencies, and refresh some of these tools we used previously, such as the type tool and the shape tool. So the first thing I want to do is put in that background image we had in the other version. So I'm going to import that and file, place, and finding the image. It's in my locative media app folder which we used before, and I found this image previously. It's just a nice street scene, kind of sets our scene, gives us some nice promotional artwork. Going to place that in. You can see at the moment that actually it's quite a nice location for it to go, fits quite well there, but we need to crop off these edges. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I need to go to the rectangle tool, which we've used previously. Click on that, and I'm going to drag a rectangle over the section of the image I want to be visible. Only the section I want to be visible do I drag that box over. So let's drag it over there to there. Okay, you see now it's covered in a white box. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my selection tool, which is the top left up here. Click on that, then I'm going to highlight both the image that I want to be the background and the white box that I've drawn over the top of it. And what we're going to do here is we're effectively going to make this white box into a window, so only the bit of the image that's behind the white box can be seen. To do that, I right click with them both selected and go down to Make Clipping Mask on the drop down menu that appears. And then you can see there you've just got the bit of the image that was covered by that white box. And now if we go and have a look in our layers, you can see that the two objects, the white box and the image, have been put into this thing called a clip group. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to move that clip group into another layer, which I'll make now. Let's make a new layer. I'm going to call it background, and I'm going to pop my clipping group into that and pop that down just below the bars there. And that's our background, clipped out and put into place. So now the next thing we need to do is to create our login box in the center here. So I'm just going to lock off my background layer, hide away all my icons so I don't need those, and I'm going to make a new layer which we're going to call login. And I can start working in there. So lock off my icons as well. What I want to do is I just want to create that box for all of the stuff to go inside. So I'm going to do that by going to the rectangle tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hold down the left mouse button so I can have the rounded rectangle tool. And that will give us a smoother edge and rounded corners. I'm just going to draw a box approximately where I want it, across the middle here. Yeah, that'll do, it's about even. And at the moment you can see this box has actually got no fill and no lines, so I can't really see it. So I'm just going to give it a fill of dark grey. I don't really want it to have any outline anyway, so that's fine. So we give it this dark grey colour, same colour as these top and bottom bars, and then we'll work with it from there. And what I want to do is I just want to be able to see this background image through here a little bit, so I'm going to change the transparency of this object. This box I've just drawn, if I go up to the top bar here with it selected, you can see here it says opacity, the transparency panel, and I click on the drop down. And then I'm going to make it, let's say, 70%. maybe 80% look a bit better, a bit clearer. Yeah, 80%. And that gives us this transparent box so we can kind of still see our image through a bit. So now all we need to do is put in our login and register buttons and our fields for typing in your username and password. So to do that, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the rounded rectangle tool, use that one again, make sure we've got fill of white, outline of grey, and change the stroke colour to, let's say, 4 on this one. And I'm just going to draw a login box. That looks about right, that'll do. And I'm going to duplicate it, going back to my selection tool, holding Alt and dragging it down. So we've got 2 identical boxes, one on top of the other there. And now I just need to label these. So I'm going to go to the type tool, select that, click somewhere, and make sure I'm typing in white because that's the kind of colour we're going to need. And I'm going to type username and then a colon, and move that over there. It's about the right size, so we'll leave it as it is, 24. And again for the label of the second box, go to the type tool, password, colon, and then again make sure that one's white, and use the selection tool just to move it back over and line it up with a word above it and a box beside it. So just there. So now the last thing we need to do is create the login button and the sign up button, which we're just going to put in this space underneath here. So back to our rounded rectangle tool, I'm going to give it a green interior to my rectangle and a light green stroke so it matches up with our logo and our icons, keeping with that colour scheme. And the stroke weight I'm going to make, let's say 4 for this one. Let's try that out and see what it looks like. So 4, yeah, that looks about right to me. Up a little bit, and then again I'm going to duplicate this button by holding Alt, dragging across, and creating 2 identical buttons. I want to move them both across a little bit just so they aren't so close to the edge there. I put them in the centre, about there, move them down a bit. And I just need to put what each of those buttons does. So again, labelling. Using the type tool, I'm going to type login, and this time I'm going to need my font colour to be the light green so it shows up against that dark green and keeps with our theme. And pop that on that button there, nudging it about with the arrow keys until you get it about the right place, centre. There you go, that'll do. And one more for the sign up, click, sign up, make it green, move it over, pop it into the centre of that box a bit. Go. Now just before we finish, just going to go to our layers, close that up, lock it off, and then save. So now that we've saved our final version, what we want to do is we want to export it in a format that we can use outside of Illustrator. So go to File and then Export. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it to my locative media app. There's a bunch of different file types you can use here depending on what you want to use it for. Obviously JPEG is the most universal, or PNG. I'm just going to go for a JPEG. And at the bottom here, you'll see this little box that says use artboards. If you tick that box, what will happen is it'll only export things that are within the page. So these resource files that we've got here won't come out in our final version. It'll just be the stuff that's on the page that we set up earlier. So use artboards, click save, and then you can change the settings if you want to. I usually just leave them same, highest, RGB, best quality, click OK, and that saves our final version. So now if I close Illustrator, open up my locative media app folder, see here, it's the final version. It adds a 01 to the end because we used artboards. If we call it final version 01, that's fine. Double click on it and you can see that's the final version of my app design. So this has been my final installment of this Illustrator tutorial. You've been watching Software Stuff. I'm ThatJaymsWisdom. Keep smiling and thank you very kindly.